What's up, everybody? Tim Anderson here, aka Renville, the Bearded Dwarven Princess. Welcome back for another Rings of Power rant as we dissect the series and everything that's good and bad about it. But today in particular, we're asking the question, where the hell are Galadriel's brothers? After all, she had more than just one, and none of them died in the way that the show suggests he did. The one that she has in the show that's wildly different from the ones she actually had. Yeah, we're going to be discussing that today. So hopefully you brought your waders because we're going to be diving into the thick of it throughout today's video. Before we get going, however, though, I have to give a shout out to all the supporters here on YouTube as part of members of the Adventurers Guild, and those of you who are supporting over at Patreon, those of you who are tuning into live streams and doing super chats and stickers and all those things. Thanks so much for your support, keeping this channel up and going and continually moving forward. More information at the end on how you too can become a supporter, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you get more updates like this as we continue to talk about the Rings of Power and beyond. Also, don't forget 11 a.m. Central Time every Monday morning, Mondays in Middle Earth, as I read through The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, and The Silmarillion, re-educating myself on all things Middle Earth. Let's dive in. Galadriel, and because everyone was complaining about some of the places that I was pulling info from in the last couple of videos, I've used the Tolkien Gateway, I've used the OneRing.net, I've used other places, and everyone keeps telling me, please just use the Tolkien Gateway. So here it is for all of you. This is what I'm talking about in the Mondays in Middle Earth series, by the way. This is the kind of stuff that did not exist the last time I read through The Lord of the Rings. So it's great to have tools like this in the modern era as I do my read through because we can come investigate things of this nature. So, as we know, in the show, Galadriel is only mentioned as ever having one brother. And I actually don't know, is that brother actually ever named on screen? I can't think that they actually ever said his name. It's just her brother. Meanwhile, if you go to the actual lore, if you come here to Tolkien Gateway, Galadriel had three brothers. She had Egnor, Angrod, and Finrod. The last being the most famous, and I think most people have assumed, or maybe it has been confirmed, that the last brother Finrod is the one that's portrayed in the Rings of Power show. But I digress. It doesn't really matter because what does matter is the fact that none of her brothers died in the way that the one brother she has in the One Ring dies. He isn't marked by Sauron. He doesn't go on a quest seeking vengeance, or any of those things. It's quite interesting how all this works out. And again, as always, those of you who are more knowledgeable about Lord of the Rings than I am, please drop your comments down below because as I'm reading through everything for the Mondays in Middle Earth series, I want to be educated on these things, and I've never read like the history of Middle Earth and all of these other things. I've only ever read The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, and the Silmarillion, and those were 20 years ago. So I'm very keen on learning more as I continue to deep dive into all things Tolkien. So it says here, Tolkien was born in Aman as one of the Noldor. She was the daughter of Finarfin, the younger sister to Finrod Faelgun, later king of Nargothrond, Angrod, and Angnor. Now, if we go over very quickly to her brothers, this is Angnor was the elder brother of Galadriel and the youngest brother of Finrod and Angrod. He had a strong friendship with Fingon and grace to him, and followed the exiles in the host of Fingolfin with his brother Angrod. He settled with his brother on the northern slopes, Songung Andrith, and they fell in love. However, he could not return her love during the siege of Angband, since according to the customs of the Eldar, no marriages were desired during time of war. He then could not take any Elven brides. It says, together with Angrod, he held the highlands of Dorthonion against Morgoth. They were both slain in the dagger Bragolath by the flames from Thangordrim. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that was one of the mighty Balrogs, was he not? Dagar Bragolok was the fourth great battle of the Wars of Beleriand, fought between the forces of Morgor and the Leaguer of Noldor. Thangorium was a group of three volcanoes in the highest peaks that were raised by Morgoth, far back into the mountains. Hang on, what did that say here? Saying in by the flames from. So that's not uh one of the Balrogs. It was a mountain range. So see, I'm learning stuff even as I'm reading through that they were slain during a huge on a winter's night, Morgoth sent out rivers of flame from the Thangordrim. These flames consumed, etc., etc., etc. So basically, they died during this battle when Morgoth caused the volcanoes to erupt. Very, very interesting. So neither Angnor nor Angrod died due to Sauron seeking revenge or looking for them because they were seeking him out. That never happened. So what about Finrod? Is there something in the history of Finrod that could have inspired what's taking place in the Rings of Power with her brother? Let's read this up. Man, there's a lot more about Finrod. He had a much greater history. It says in Beleriand, he became the ruler of Nargothrond, taking the after-name of Felagund. He was a wise, just, and powerful elf and a great traveler. Dun, 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 dun. He was among those who opposed Fëanor in the exile of the Noldor. However, when the Noldor were set to depart, he joined them, for he would not be sundered from his friends and his people who were eager to go. Also, he had no wish to abandon his people to Fëanor's rule. He and his people did not participate in the kinslaying. Dun, 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 dun. When they were traveling up the coast of Araman, the Val Mandos appeared and pronounced the doom of the Noldor, and in that hour Finarfin forsook the march and returned to Valinor with many of his people. However, Finrod and his siblings went forward still and led their people to the long and perilous march to Middle-earth. All right. Encounter with men. Quest for the Silmaril. 10 years later, Belar's son Baron came to Nargothrond seeking help, but went them for the quest of the Silmaril. I vaguely remember some of this from my read-through of the Silmarillion. They disguised themselves in the likeness of orcs. Thus disguised, they came upon their northern road between Ered Wethrin and the highlands of Tarnuffin. However, the 12 were captured and imprisoned by Sauron and Tol in Gorthoth, the Isle of Werewolves. It says, thus befell the contest of Finrod and Sauron. Finrod strove with Sauron in songs of power, and the power of the Elven King was very great, but in the end, Sauron had the mastery. Stripped them of their disguise, but though their kinds were revealed, he could not discover their names or their purpose. He then imprisoned them, and one by one the 12 were killed by werewolves until only Beren and Finrod were left, but none of the companions betrayed them. When the werewolves came to kill Beren, Finrod put forth all his power and burst his bonds. He wrestled with the werewolf and slew it with his hands and teeth, yet he himself was mortally wounded and died in the dark. Thus, the fairest and most beloved of the house of Finwë redeemed his oath. It says here that because of Finrod's noble actions in life and his reluctance to journey to Middle-earth, he was reincarnated after only a short time. He and Glorfindel were the only elves who were ever known to have been reincarnated. Okay, very, very cool. Very, very cool. So where is any or all of this in the Rings of Power? There is a short answer for this, ladies and gentlemen. Amazon does not have the rights to the Silmarillion. So they can't talk about her other brothers. They can't talk about any of the stuff that I just read because it all took place during works that they don't have the rights to. Now, of course, many people who are against the Rings of Power adaptation have made statements of the like, such as, well, they shouldn't have made a show about the Second Age if they didn't have the rights to make the Second Age. That's neither here nor there. But the important part to understand is the reason that we haven't seen or heard anything about these three brothers of Galadriel is because they literally can't talk about them because they are from the Silmarillion. They don't have the rights to these characters or any of their stories. Now, they can mention things such as Fëanor because he's mentioned in the appendices, and therefore they can name drop him like they did in episode 2 when they're picking up the hammer and Elrond is talking to Celebrimbor. But they can't talk about any of these brothers that Galadriel had. They can't mention them by name, and they can't reference any of the things that happened to them because that is protected work that's within a book that they don't have the rights to. That's the short answer, right? So it stands to reason that's why they invented the very small, tiny, short version of a brother that Galadriel has in the show, for better or for worse. It is what it is. If you got to the end of this and you want more, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. If you would like to become a supporter, which hopefully you would, supporting the channel is a great thing and helps me as a content creator. Drop our super thanks down below. Join as a member of the Adventurers Guild. Tune in to a live stream and do super chats and stickers, or head on over to patreon.com/wandering hermits and become a patron of our fantasy project, The World of the Weave and the Void. Either way, hopefully I'll see you in the next episode. Stay safe up there, everyone. Happy reading, and if you're watching the show alongside me, don't forget to check out the reviews as they happen, and I'll see you in the next episode.